Today we're going to start Math 110B, but first I'm going to review some of the formulas and rules we have covered in Math 110A, so then to refresh your memory. Okay, so let's review the duality of some of the functions that you encounter in Math 110A. Okay, the first one is x to the n power. This is a power of n. The duality that is going to be n times x to the n minus 1 power. Notice that the exponent here is going to drop to the front, and exponent on x here is going to go down by 1. Okay, now e to the x. E to the x is a function that is not afraid to be differentiated. It will remain e to the x no matter how many times you differentiate that. Okay, so it's going to be e to the x. What about a to the x? A to the x is also an exponential function. So similarly, the function that you get here will be a to the x itself. However, you have this extra. You will have times the ln of a. Okay. Next one, the natural log of the absolute value of x. The duality that is 1 over x. Sin x, the duality is cosine x. Cosine x, the duality is, well, sine and cosine, the duality alternate, okay? So cosine x, the duality will have sine x, however, there will be a minus sign in front, okay? Okay, now tangent of x, well, let me teach you a trick to remember the duality for tangent of x and also secant of x, okay? The trick to remember is, say, well, suppose you ask your friend, what is the duality of tangent of x, right? And then your friend will say, okay, so this word right here, okay? They will tell you quietly, say, what's the duality for tangent of x? Suppose you ask them. Okay, so take away this p over here, that's SST. So the trick to remember the duality of tangent and also secant is come into this, think about this SST, okay? So it goes this way, this will be secant, tangent. So when you take the duality of tangent, will be secant times secant, so that will be secant squared. And when you take the duality of secant, then that will be secant times tangent. So the duality of secant is going to be secant times tangent. Okay, so using this trick, you're able to remember the duality for tangent and also the duality for secant. So that's the trick. Okay. So the duality for tangent of x is going to be secant squared x. The duality for cotangent of x. Now, if you remember the duality for tangent x, that's secant square of x. So then you remember the duality for cotangent x. So you think about this as a co-function of that, right? So for secant x, then we'll write the corresponding one here. That will be cosecant of x. So we play this secant x here by cosecant x, but you see a square, but there's a minus sign in front. So every time if it's cosine, cotangent, there will be a minus sign here in front of the duality, in front of the answer right here, okay? So the duality for cotangent x is negative cosecant square of x, okay? Now what about secant of x? The duality for secant x is going to be secant x times tangent x. Now, the duality for cosecant x, well, think about the cofunction of this one and this one, right? And then you have to add the minus sign in front. So that will be negative cosecant of x, cotangent of x, okay? Now, next one, this is the inverse sign, okay? Inverse sign, this is not an exponent. This negative one here indicate is the inverse function of sine of x, okay? Another notation for that is arcsine of x. So the duality this is 1 over square root of 1 minus x squared. Now, the way that we remember this, I will try to remember this trig identity. 1 minus sine square equal to cosine square. So that's related to this, 1 minus sine square, okay? Now, inverse tangent, that is the inverse function of tangent x, okay? Or in other words, in another notation, so that would be arctangent of x, okay? The duality that is 1 over 1 plus x squared, okay? You can try to relate this with 1 plus tangent square theta equal to secant square theta. Okay. Now those are the most frequently used formula for duality. So those are the ones that you want to remember them. Okay, remember them by heart. Okay. 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 So let's take a break.